Are you ready to learn how to restore a yacht? Now, the last time I was working on a boat like this was in Sandusky, Ohio, but today we are in sunny, beautiful Naples, Florida. We are working on an immaculate 460 Sea Ray Sundancer. Let's take a tour. This is how you sand. Now, as you guys can see, the boat is in pretty rough condition. It's not the worst boat I've ever done, but we do have to get aggressive with the sanding. So what we've already done off camera is we've done 800 grit by hand, and then we've done 500 Abralon by machine. But you guys haven't missed out on anything because we're gonna be doing the exact same thing, just with 1,000 Abralon and 2,000 Abralon, which you guys are gonna get to see right now. Now, what we have in front of me is we have the Griot's Garage G9. This is a random orbital polisher. It's a great starter polisher to get for sanding. So it retails right around that $130 price range. And then what we gotta have is we've gotta have our interface pad. So we've got our Mirka 6-inch interface pad. That's gotta go on the machine to give us that extra cushion to make sure we're not creating any extra scratches while we're actually sanding. And then what we've got here is we've got 1,000 grit Abralon. So this is our actual sanding disc that we're gonna use that goes on top of this interface pad, just like that. Now guys, if anyone's watching who's a boat owner who wants to attempt this yourself, I'm just gonna say, guys, sanding is an art, so don't get discouraged. I know you guys can do it. Just stay along, watch, follow the journey, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it.
Now today what we're really doing is covering the sanding process and how to do it. So as I mentioned earlier, we are getting started with the Abralon 1000. This is going to be a great cut. It's going to reduce the scratches from the 500 that we did off camera, but regardless, all the Abralon grits, they're going to be the same exact process no matter what grit you're on. Now of course we've got to work these lines in between the non-skid. We got to work through crevices, cracks, right? We got to kind of make the pad work for us, make the machine work for us. And on the top side, of course, you guys know there's all kinds of things we got to kind of work around. Now if there are parts on the boat that you can't actually do it with the machine, you will want to take that sanding disc off of the polisher. You will want to do those areas by hand. We don't want to miss anything here. We don't want to leave spots of the boat oxidized. It's going to make the buffing process a lot harder, the polishing harder, and then your ceramic coating is going to fail earlier in those spots that you decided to kind of skip over. So it doesn't matter what part of the boat we're working on, we do want to get each part of the boat sanded, whether that's underneath the cleats, whether that's around the bow rail, right? There's a lot of little fittings on these boats, as you guys are aware of. So we are going to run this horizontal, vertical, the best we can depending on the area we're working. Now you do want to be careful when you're working on curves that run around the boat, but typically these Abralon pads are going to be pretty safe, and gel coat is sprayed relatively thick when, you know, compared to a paint, when compared to a clear coat. So you do have a lot of give with that. I wouldn't be too worried when you're using Abralon. Typically you're going to be alright. I know a lot of people get into sanding, they really get scared, they really become unsure on how much you can really sand off. But guys, even on a 20-year-old boat like the one we're working on today, this beautiful Sea Ray, you do have quite a bit of gel coat to work with, so don't be too worried. Abralon pads, super safe, they're very soft, they do kind of the grits in the pads, so completely safe to use. And when it comes to the speed of the DA polisher, you typically want to keep it at a middle pace, so not too slow, but also not really fast. Disadvantage of running it really fast is, number one, your interface pad is going to come off a lot quicker. It's going to kind of break, and then, you know, at that point, the polisher is just out of control. So we want to run it around. Four is going to be perfect. Get a nice slow cut, but also have the ability to finish out nicely and take out enough scratches, enough oxidation to make it worth your time. So if you run the polisher too slow, it's going to take forever to work in a section. It's going to cut so slow, going to take forever to finish out. And those things are really important to consider while you're doing this. Now, as we start to really work this in, which by the way, you guys probably saw me rinse off a section. Every time we do a section, we do want to rinse off that section, because here's what's going to happen. If you don't rinse off every section you do, then you've got that wet sanding, oxidation, actually drying back onto the boat, and then when you come back with the next round, all that stuff's going to cake onto your pad, which is going to reduce the amount of cut that you're getting with that pad. So always rinse off. I'm very particular, very serious about rinsing off every section. I know other detailers out there are not as serious about that, but again, it's very important because these Abralon pads, they're pure wet sanding pads. They need to be clear, they need to be free of getting caked up, or they're just simply not going to work. They're not going to be effective in any way. So very important there. Rinse off your sections, rinse off your pads. Always keep those pads clean, and that's going to get you a really effective sand. Now, you guys are not alone. A lot of people are in the same boat when it comes to being unsure. I see this all the time when I'm out quoting. People just don't understand. The sanding, I think, is very dangerous. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to finish it properly, which is why they just simply avoid it, and they just try to get away with compound. But look, guys, for example, on a 20-year-old boat like this, there's just no way that we can compound out all this oxidation and get it back to where it needs to be to actually accept a ceramic coating, without hurting or disabling the long-term effects of the coating, right? We want our maximum benefits out of the coating, and we have to sand this down to do that. And guys, like I said, you're not alone, but again, we have a lot of gel to work with, even on an older boat like this. These Abralon pads are so safe. It's very hard. You actually have to try to sand through the gel coat to actually do that with these pads. So I know, guys, once you get started, you're going to get into it, you're going to be figuring this out, and it's going to come easy. Just get started. That's the biggest thing. Get started, get working on this, and you're going to figure it out as you go. Now, as you are cutting through the different pads, here's the goal, right? You're going to be taking out oxidation, you're going to be rinsing off those sections, and you're going to see, what's coming out of the gel coat. If it's really white, it's going to be a lot of oxidation. If you're working with a red boat, a blue boat, then it's going to be those colors, right? Red, blue, white, whatever color gel coat you're working with. A lot of that color is going to come out as you're rinsing off the boat. So the goal here is, as we get to the last pad, which this is a 4-step process, but as we get to that last pad, we want that oxidation to almost be white. We want it to be almost clear, look like water. That means we've sanded out the oxidation. If we're still getting a ton of white coming out of the boat on the last round, well, now we've got to reconsider. Have we done enough sanding, or do we need to go back and retrace some of our steps? So that's kind of a good telling point for you, and another reason why rinsing off the boat's a great idea. It kind of lets you gauge exactly where you're at in the sanding process. So that's probably the easiest tip, honestly, guys, that you could really run and take away with, is you always know where you're at in the sanding process when it comes to oxidation by spraying off that boat. Is there a lot of whiteness coming off? Is there a lot of oxidation still coming out of the gel coat? From a scratch standpoint, not going to help you a whole lot, but from making sure you're removing the oxidation, very important for getting the maximum longevity out of your coatings, whether that's a ceramic wax, a polymer sealant, a ceramic coating. Oxidation has to be gone before you get to the buffing. So I hope some of these tips help you guys. I will just give you a heads up now. The top of the arch and the bow of the boat, right underneath the windows, is always going to be the most oxidized part. So you may have to do extra sanding in those two areas specifically. So just be prepared to do that. The worst thing you can do is not sand enough. So again, you might have to run more passes. You might have to run multiple steps of the same pad, because these areas get so much sun. They're getting baked every single day, and that's just how it always is, regardless of the boat you're working with. So you got to consider hard tops, you have to consider arches, you have to consider right below the window any surfaces that are more horizontal, that are always going to be directly in the sun. And again, same process applies, but consider running extra steps, extra passes, and even running the same pad 2 times to really get that to work out. Now, we did really focus on these areas, and we did get them perfectly before we moved on to the compound, which is extremely important. If you are just getting started, that would be something very useful to know. Those spots are always going to be more oxidized than the rest of the boat, and that will always be true. So just something to consider, guys. I know you guys like helpful tips, especially for you guys who are just getting started and are in the same boat of, do I want to sand? What should I expect? How should I really attack the boat?
Welcome back. Today we are working on a Sea Ray Sundancer 460, and we just finished all the wet sanding down to 2000. Let me show you how to buff the boat. We are out on the raft today, so we are on the water. We got to get this haul done, and what we've got is we've got a Solstice raft. So we got our 6x5 foot Solstice raft. This is going to allow us to work on the water. Now, it's really important to have a good setup. So what we got over here is we've got 2 suction cups. You just go to Home Depot, pick those up. Now the key with this is you want to keep those a little wider than the base of the raft, and then you want to get some sort of strap system that allows you to pull up tight against the hull of the boat. So, you know, once we get these pretty tight, you know, now our raft really can't move. I can stand up on here and, you know, I'm not going to fall over. So it's really important to have a nice stable surface. This is going to allow you to buff at a high level. Now we've got our DeWalt rotary, right? We've got our wool pad, and we are starting off with Stark Level R. So all the sanding's done. We've got this fined out really nice at 2000. Stark Level R's in this bottle. We're going to put on the applicator and we are going to get to work. So guys, check it out.
As we get started, you guys will want to have an applicator. I know that gets controversial, but an applicator is great because you can directly control the amount of product you're putting onto your surface, putting onto your section. And when you don't have that, you got to just simply put it on the pad. It gets very inconsistent. I think it cakes up the pads. It decreases the cut power. You're going to have to clean your pads more often. It just makes the surface really hard to work with, guys. So definitely get yourself an applicator. All it is one little tiny applicator. You can put it in your pocket, put it in a bucket, have easy access to it. But in terms of getting the best results, I think that is a little tip that can help you get to where you're trying to go. Now, other than that, though, it is very important to control the amount that you're putting on the surface. When you do wet sand, you do want to have a really good coverage of compound. You are going to use a lot of compound. Luckily, it's not too expensive, so running through a lot is pretty typical, and it's normal, and it's something that you want to consider to get the best result. So definitely throw that on there, especially after sanding. Cover that surface completely with the compound, and you can always make this judgment based on what you're doing, what you're working with, how much cut you want. The more cut you want, the more compound you're going to need on there. Now we do have the DeWalt buffer, so I always recommend DeWalt, Makita, going to be top of the line when it comes to buffers for working on your boat. They're going to last for a long time. If you're a boat owner, they're probably going to last your entire lifetime that you have your boat, because these machines just simply do a really good job. They're really well made, and I do prefer DeWalt slightly for personal reasons, but Makita is just as well a very great option and durable machine to use. If you guys are looking for a more economical option, search around on Amazon, go to Harbor Freight. But we do want to work this slowly. We want to start at 600. I've used Level R for a couple of years now. Pretty much 600 to 1,000 is the ideal range. I always get started at 600. I want the slowest cut possible, and then as I start to finish that compound out, I'm going to increase that to 1,000 RPMs. Level R just simply doesn't like to run hot. You might run into issues with marring and things like that. So if you want to avoid that, stick between that 600 RPM and 1,000 RPM range. We do have the Buff and Shine wool cutting pad. Pretty reasonable price in my opinion for an amazing result. Now we did finish the rest of the haul off camera, and we are jumping into the polishing. Going to be the very same situation with the applicator. Get your applicator, get yourself an applicator, apply Stark Elevate on the surface. Now with the polish, it is different than the compound. You do want to apply this relatively thin, so you want to apply this very thin, like a layer of wax. If you do apply too much, it's going to take a really long time to work in. It's not necessary. You're going to increase more product onto your pad. And yeah, guys, like I said, it's just going to take so long for a pretty average result. So less is better when it comes to polishing. We do have the 3401, the Rupes Milli, so we got the Flex, we got the Rupes Milli as a couple options for you. They even have the Makita. I know not a lot of people are using it, but they do have a Makita FA polisher, perhaps a little more economical, if I do remember correctly. These are going to be the best built machines. They're going to get you the best quality, the most power, the most cutting, the best finish. So again, if you do want an economical option, DA polisher people always are going to throw in there. I just don't think the DA polisher has enough cut power, because as you do start to tilt that pad, it is going to come down to a stop. And once that pad is stopped, at that point, your machine's just vibrating, which isn't really doing a whole lot. And you know, Elevate is a 1200 grit, so a 1200 grit is still relatively on the heavier side. You know, we're not even jumping into the car compound jet, which would start around 1500. So you do want to have a relatively powerful machine. The Rupes 21, you could probably get away with that, but that also is going to be one of those pricier, more expensive machines. But like I said, 100% worth it, worth the investment. Going to be tools you can use year after year after year, lifetime. potential. So the Rupes Millie, if you do want the best customer service, if your machine does break, Rupes is going to have great customer service. They will arguably either replace your machine completely or they'll give you a refund if something does happen. So, you know, that's something to consider, but at the most, I think Flex 3401 definitely has the best quality that you're looking for. But I do think customer service is also very important because, you know, if your machine does break, you can get a new one, and that is definitely something to consider. Now with these machines, we do run, we're going to start around that 4 range, and then we're going to finish down pretty fast, almost to the max. So we want to work in slow like always, and then we do want to get a high finish with these machines, where that will likely change with the buffer, with the rotary. We do want to get that high finish to get us that gloss and finish out the surface to where we want it to be. So finish that out around 5 to 6, start around 4, and that's going to be the best way to finish out Stark Elevate in particular when we're talking about these machines. So we're going to work down to the end of the boat, we're going to work down to the bow part of the hull, and we're going to continue on. Hope these tips helped you, and I know you guys can do this. Very simple process, not too hard to kind of wrap your head around and do on your own. So watch, learn, and try for yourself.
Today we are going to be polishing. So what we've got is we've got the Flex 3401 VRG. This is a forced action machine. It's going to give us a good oscillating pattern to cut out our scratches. So the only step different from what we're doing now compared to what we did last time is we've got Stark Elevate again, but now we've got a foam pad. This is going to give us better scratch removal. We're going to get that gloss, that clarity, that shine that we need before we do the ceramic coating application. Again, it's going to be the same application with our applicator. We're going to put it on, we're going to put it on the surface, and then we're going to work our machine side to side, up and down, get that vertical, horizontal movement until we get a good haze on the polish, and then we're going to wipe it off with a microfiber. Let's check it out. Let's get started. So we've got Elevate. We're going to put a little bit on here. Just a little bit. We just want enough to kind of get it like almost like we're waxing the boat, right? So just a nice, even, good coverage. Not too much product. A lot of people want to put too much product on there, and then you've got to work it in so long, and it's just going to waste a lot of time. You're not going to get any better results. So put it on really light, save you time, save you energy with your buffer. Now let's go ahead. We got the Flex. We want to keep this right between 4 and 5. You know, a little closer to 5 if you want to kind of pick up that speed. And then we're just going to run it horizontal movements side to side because we're on this little piece right here, so we can't really get any vertical movements. Not really going to make a lot of sense. So let's go ahead, let's get started. Now to start off, we want to go really slow. So we want to get slow movement, let that product work into the gel coat, take out those scratches. Now as we work that product in, we can actually pick up the pace, we can move faster, really get that good finish. It's going to be easy to wipe off. So let me show you. And just like that, we've got a really nice light haze on here, so it's going to be really easy to wipe off. We've got our polishing towel right here from the Rag Company, and we're just going to fold it into 4s. Going to give us the best wipe, best control of the towel. And that is how you polish a section on a boat. We
we are getting started with the ceramic coating process. We've got ceramic DNA, DNX coating. This is a professional coating system out of West Palm Beach, and unfortunately it is only for professional detailers. This stuff is very serious. It's going to be a little harder to work with than maybe for, say, your Stark Yacht Care or your Underdog. It's going to kind of cure instantly, and you're going to have to wipe it off. It has a very strong bond, which is a good thing. It's something that we are willing to work with in order to get that long-term protection. We want a coating that has the ability to last for years to come, as well as blocking out oxidation, being easy to clean, and then when that coating is ready to come off, that it's actually going to come off the boat. So there's a lot of factors to keep in mind when you are choosing a ceramic coating. DNA, they've kind of nailed it over here on the West Coast with West Palm Beach, and we are now offering this on the West Coast of Florida. So an amazing company. If you are interested as a professional detailer, reach out to them. They're over in Rivera Beach to be specific, but Sean, the owner, and then their whole crew over there will take good care of you guys, and they will get you all set up to go if you are serious about being an installer. Again, recommend highly. This is the only stuff we will use on our 1% detail. Now, when you do get started, no matter what coating system you're using, all this stuff is going to be very similar. So pay attention to what I'm telling you, and it will translate to any coating system that you are using. Now, when you do a section, well, in fact, before we even get to that, you want to prime the applicator. So we want to get coverage of product on our applicator, kind of make a box around the corners, filled in very quickly. You know, we want enough coating to be on there to cover the entire surface. Right? We want a decent coverage. We don't want it super thin. We don't want it dripping. We don't want it super full. But we want a nice layer of coating over top of the gel coat. And then, you know, this stuff will actually dry pretty much instantly. So there is no wait time to wiping it off. But with other coating systems, be sure you understand what that dry time is. It's actually called flash time, and that is from when you put the coating on to when you're able to wipe it off. All coatings have different flash times. Some will have a minute, some will be instantly like this, and then others will be 10-12 minutes. It just depends on the solids in the coating. This one is a relatively high solids. It's 65% active ceramic, so it is going to be a very quality, durable coating that is going to need to be wiped off right away. And then as you're doing the sections, we want to work in a shape. So every section we do, pretend you are creating a shape. Make the border of that shape, as I'm doing right here. Just did a square, a rectangle, and then once you get that border filled out, fill in the middle, colored in, just like you're coloring in a shape. Very simple. You're gonna do this on every single section. You're going to do this on every single section of the boat that you do. It does not change. And then as you're filling in, what I like to do, I like to be aggressive with it. I really like to push that coating into the pores. A lot of people, they'll just barely tap the surface. That's not doing you any good, guys. You want to be aggressive with it. Push that coating into the pores. Get it in there, right? We're not just trying to barely set it on top of the surface. And that's going to be the same for every section. Now, we do have the Ray Company towels. These are great towels for the coating, for wiping off. On the first towel, our goal here is to level out that coating, take out any high spots, fill in any low spots, get this coating evened out. And then with the second towel, we want to actually come back and wipe off the coating completely. That's going to get us our high gloss finish, which is what we're looking for pretty much on the entire boat until it comes to non-skid or plastics or the bottom of the boat. People want to see that high gloss. They want really glossy finish with great protection, and that's how you're going to do it here on the top side. So very simple, very straightforward. Section by section, add a little bit more coating on your applicator, fill in a shape, right? Make the border first, fill that shape in, be aggressive with it, don't be soft. And then number one, come back with that first towel, kind of level out that coating, get some of it off, level out that coating, get most of that coating off, and then the second towel, get it completely off, get you that mirror finish. Always pay attention to the corners, always pay attention to the line that you started with. As you move down right at the end of the line, the end of that shape, you want to make sure you're wiping off completely so you don't have little smear marks as you're working down the boat. So very important to pay attention. That's the number one thing I can recommend with ceramic coatings is pay attention. You always got to pay attention to exactly what you're doing. A moment that you slip up on focus is the moment you leave a smear mark or something in that surface that you will notice later down the road. I've got Josh getting started with covers over here. Now, really what we do with the covers is we're going to soap them up. So there's a few things to consider. Now, we want to do mold and mildew removal first, right? So if there's any mold or mildew growing on these covers, we want to get that off initially because pressure washing, soaping it, not going to really get that off. So that's the first step. After you do that, you want to kind of look for any stains. Perhaps you have some bird droppings, something like that, which wasn't something we were dealing with particularly on this project. And then after that, you want to soap these down to grease them up. And that is going to kind of strip off anything that you've got on these covers, which will allow you to do a waterproofing if that is something you decide to do, or something that you would offer perhaps if you're a business. But we're just cleaning the covers for today, so we soaped them up, we got them stripped down with Dawn dish soap to grease them down when necessary in spots that we needed, and then we're pressure washing, so that's going to really get all the dirt out of any of those little cracks and pores that would be in the canvas material. So a very important process to do. You want to make sure you follow all the steps in order to make sure you get the best results and get your canvas cleaned the proper way. So pressure washing, very important here to get that pressure that you need to get out all of that vinyl. Anything sticking in those little cracks, we want to get that out. You know, dirt finds its way in there, and just simply washing it, scrubbing it may not always do the trick. So follow these steps to get your canvas looking perfect. Extremely important that we do an alcohol prep before ceramic coating, no matter which surface we are applying it to. We are working on the non-skid now, so a magic eraser with this process will be your best friend, because anytime you're walking on the non-skid, you have the potential to leave scuff marks that get right on top of that non-skid that you're walking on. So that allows us to take off that layer, and really a magic eraser does an excellent job at cleaning the non-skid and prepping it where it needs to be at before a ceramic coating. So this is a tip that we took away from Ceramic DNA themselves. We really like the idea. Now, you know, in the past we were kind of against using magic erasers for a lot of surfaces, but in fact it actually does an excellent job at cleaning, so there's really no reason to overthink it, and this is really, like I said, going to be your best friend. So alcohol prep, clean it really well, get into all those cracks and crevices, because that's going to allow your ceramic coating to last longer. Not only does your surface need to be oxidation free, but it also needs to be clear of contaminants, it needs to be clear of dirt, anything that would prevent that coating from actually bonding directly to the surface that you're working with. One of the last things I did on this boat was actually cleaned up the rub rail, and we're doing this with Adam's detail spray. So it's going to be a nice easy way. It's a lubricant spray, going to make cleaning easier for you, and we've got our magic eraser removing any scuff marks before we finish up this boat, get this ceramic coated to end off the project. So really simple process. You know, a couple tips here with the rub rail is while you're actually buffing the top side or the hull, you can buff the rub rail as well, which depending on what material it's made out of, it can actually help shine up that rub rail, get it restored to a certain extent. But we do want to come back, get all the scuff marks out that the buffing or compound likely isn't going to take out. And we need the surface, again, to be decontaminated. We need it to be clean before we put our ceramic coating on the surface.
We're prepping for ceramic coating.
Okay.
Let's get started.
The prep on the controls on all the plastics up here is going to be the exact same as a non-skid. We've got the magic eraser to remove any scuff marks, things like that, really clean up this surface. We are using DNA 0, which comes with a DNA coating system, so whatever coating system you're using, you probably want to use their recommended alcohol prep. Most of these companies will have that, and that's what you want to clean with before you do the ceramic coating application.
We just completed the Sea Ray 460 Sundancer. Let me show you the boat. Here's what we did to the boat. So starting here on the swim platform, got the whole swim platform coated with ceramic DNA. DNX coating, we've got the swim ladder, everything taken care of. So back here, big points back here is you got really good protection for many years to come. Gonna be super easy to clean. And this is a very high traffic spot on the boat, so that is gonna be very important. And then we've got the name over here, Grande M, looks really nice. We've got all this polished out, coated, and that's also ready to go. So let's go ahead and come on into the cockpit. We've got a nice flooring here, nice carpet system. Got this table polished out so that any guest on the boat, because this is going to be a charter, they're going to be able to eat and they're going to be able to have a nice clean table. And then we've actually treated all of the vinyl over here, so this all has ceramic coating. The big thing with vinyl, guys, is you're getting sun damage, you're getting really high UV, so you want to get that protected. So that was really important to do with the vinyl, and you can see it's got a beautiful shine. Now let's go ahead and come up here towards the dash. We've actually got the sink right here as well. That's very nice, gonna be easy when they wanna clean anything. Water's gonna go right down the drain. And then up here on the dash, guys, so if I were, the captain and I'm driving the boat, this all up here looks amazing. So we've got ceramic DNA Luminex on all these panels. We've got our pearl protectant over here on all the plastics. So you can just see how nice this entire dash looks. We've got the stainless protected, guys. This is exactly where you're gonna wanna be when you're driving the boat. Let's go ahead and go to the top side now. Talk a little bit about the top side and really what's important up here. So as we come up to the top side, what's very important is this stainless right here. Everyone wants to see a huge shine. When you look at the windows, that's all coated too with, we've got Stark graphene on there, and then we've got Luminex on the stainless, so really shiny, gonna reduce water spotting. If you make it home in a rainy day, you guys know in the summers here, it gets very humid, it's gonna rain a lot, it's gonna just sheet right on off of the window. So very cool there, non-skid protected, so gonna be easy to clean because it does get dirty up here. And then we've got this nice big seating area, which is also protected and with ceramic DNA. So that's a little bit about the top side, guys. I'll see you here shortly. We've got max protection on the hull with DNA DNX coating. You guys know when you're cruising down the water, you're gonna get a lot of salt, get a lot of the elements down there, so that's gonna get a beating. So you really wanna make sure you got that protected. And then we've got all the windows up here towards the bow of the hull protected as well, very important. Now guys, if you are in Naples, Florida, or you're gonna be visiting Naples, Florida, they are running charters on this boat. This is a 460 Sea Ray Sundancer, and you guys can go to golfviewcruising.com and you guys can book a luxury charter. They're gonna be doing gourmet dinners, they're gonna take you out, have the experience of a lifetime, and that is with Captain Frank, who has over 25-30 years of experience along with his wife. They're going to create an incredible experience for you guys and your family, so you want to make sure you go ahead there and book that. This is also one of the boats that we are going to be maintaining and that we've got coated with the 1% detail package, so you're getting an incredible boat, awesome experience. Be sure to go check that out.
Biggest boat I've ever worked on.